A common theme, or concept rather, found across three separate chapters is the idea of racial contract. A racial contract is a contract that is invoked by the role of race on society, by which a social contract depending on said role is formed. We see the idea of a racial contract and how it is not only formed by society, but how it proceeds to affect the dynamic society for some time after in chapters 1, 2, and 7. A commonality between the racial contracts established in these three chapters is the way in which African Americans and Caucasians are compared to each other, and how more times than not, African Americans are seen as invaluable compared to other races. Chapter 1, Colored Property and White Backlash, written by David Frond, explains how, even in post-war America, society and living arrangements were determined predominantly by race. Frond's piece is used to establish the role played by African Americans in post-war society and how they were given restrictions on where they could own property. It is specifically stated that whites' intolerance of minorities in post-war America has been driven by class conflict and the desire to protect property value. This chapter illustrates a little value placed on African Americans and how white privilege was used as an excuse for discrimination and the formation of racial and social constructs. Chapter 2, Backlash, written by Charles Mill, works to establish the racial contract seen in our government. Mills defines racial contract as a contract that makes explicit that the actual body politic is that of a white body, and the political relations of racial domination are made incarnate in human form in its extended flesh. This lack of color seen in our political body only leads our nation to believe that whites are the most valuable race and should be held with the highest regard, none of which is accurate. In this reading, Mills makes it clear that there is a racial contract characterized by the political domination of whites versus non-whites. Lastly, Chapter 7, The Most Dangerous Place, Pro-Life Politics and the Rhetoric of Slavery, written by Lisa Gunther, can, in part, be used to illustrate the idea of a racial contract through her explanation of the idea of a pink fetus versus a black fetus, and the separate regard placed on each. Gunther's readings works to explain the pro-life political groups that want to abolish abortion rights, but emphasize abolishing the rights of African American women to an abortion. Through the representation of the black fetus versus the white fetus, Gunther specifies that there is a difference between the value placed on different lives, and that the ideas of certain political groups to save black fetuses specifically is partially caused by the thorough process that the African American race is limited, and must be valued. This comparison exposes the difference in racial values seen in society today. Though each of these chapters are different, they all work to exemplify the harmfulness of racial contracts and how they are relevant to today's society.